Good morning, everybody. It is Tuesday, February 27th, and we are going to dive into some updated forecast ideas, models, timing, and us overall an update in regard to our severe potential tonight. So the SPC risk has not changed much of anything at all. It did shift the slight risk a little bit further north, as well as that marginal risk a little bit further north as well. Not a significant change, but it did shift a tad bit north. Now, your slight risk there: Grand Rapids, Alma, Flint, Port Huron, Detroit, Ann Arbor, Coldwater, Kalamazoo, Battle Creek, Jackson, Monroe. You guys are all in that slight risk. That slight risk is going to be for primarily hail and wind. Your hail threat is the highest threat today, no matter where you are in the state, really. We are concerned about hail that could reach over 2 inches in diameter, so think larger than golf ball. And that area of interest for larger hail is down here in this black boxed area from Lansing, just south of Grand Rapids there, Ann Arbor, Adrian's included there, Hillsdale, Coldwater, all the way over to Benton Harbor there in southwest Michigan and southern Michigan in general. That is going to be for large hail over 2 inches in diameter. And then a little bit further north in just a plain yellow box area, you guys have the threat for large hail over 1 inch. And then also with that reddish brown up by Mount Pleasant and Saginaw, you guys are in the threat for a 5% risk for large hail over 1 inch. Now, you go over here to the wind threat. The wind threat is just a plain old 15% wind, and that does extend all the way up to Grand Rapids, Alma, Flint, just like the slight risk does. And that is going to be for winds over 58 miles per hour. Okay, not concerned about higher end gusts today, but we are concerned about the overall winds that could peak up and over 58. Well, let's go ahead and round it up to 60 miles an hour. Okay. Now, everybody wants to know about the tornado threat. It didn't really change much at all. The 5% tornado risk still bumps into the extreme southwest corner of the state, but a 2% tornado risk does extend further north towards Grand Rapids, just south of Mount Pleasant there. Flint is included in that 2% risk, as well as Detroit and Port Huron. And again, this may shift as we get through the day. We are watching two things still on the real-time analysis data that we're getting just to our south in Indiana, Illinois, and Kentucky and Tennessee. We're watching moisture returns very, very closely this morning. And we've talked about this all week. Now, I'm sure you guys can't see this, but we're looking at our mesoanalysis map here, which shows our surface dew points to our south. So right now over in Kalamazoo, it's 68 degrees and your dew point's at 57. So upper 50s will be sufficient for severe weather. But here's something we're also kind of watching with these, with the moisture profiles. On the surface, it matters, but also just above the surface. This is a forecasted sounding here. And this green line that extends all the way over to this left side of this chart there, that is extremely dry air. Okay, we need to see this green line move further to the right to kind of meet up with this red line, so to speak. That is not a good sign right now for severe weather. However, moisture is getting streamed up from the Gulf of Mexico. So we're probably going to see this change through the afternoon and build in moisture. We look to our south in Tennessee. We see it's a little bit better of a moisture profile here at the surface up to right around 5 to 10,000 feet there. So we're going to see really dry air initially. We're going to have to kind of figure out if that's going to stick around and or it's going to erode and become a little bit more moist above the surface. So something to watch there. But in terms of overall timing and threats, we really haven't changed much in the way of timing or areas. We are watching that warm front later on this evening, right around the 7 p.m., after 7 p.m., maybe as late as 10 p.m. time frame. So we're just going to say 7 to 10 is a rough time estimate on some radar guidance here. Again, these are not to be taken as gospel. This is just an idea, okay? This is your RRFS model. This model is right now for 7 p.m. You're looking at the radar for 7 p.m. Let's go hour by hour. We see 8 p.m. here. We start seeing storms develop off to our west, almost over southwest Michigan at this point. This is 8 p.m. Here's 9 p.m. We start seeing these beefy cells in northern Indiana develop, okay? Let's go to 10 p.m. We see a little bit more of a development there. They start moving into towards southwest Michigan, and by 11 p.m., it's grown upscale into a little bit of a line here. I'm not sure if that's going to be the case here. It may be, but these cells are working their way into the state right around that 10 to 11 p.m. time frame according to this model. But it could be as early as 7. We're going to have to watch things closely. Okay, now one thing we're also going to be keeping an eye on is that atmospheric cap. Okay, so as these storms move upwards into Michigan, it will have a good portion or a good majority of severe weather ingredients available. For example, instability, overlaid here. We see abundance of it here. We look at our wind shear. There is also an abundance where this line of storms is moving. We look at our spin in the atmosphere. It's riding the boundary of better spin in the atmosphere as well. We look at our parameters like supercell composite and tornado parameters and stuff like that. We see the better parameters just off to the south, but it's better to be safe than sorry, as this does try to butt into the very far southwest and southern portions of the state here. So it does warrant watching. Okay. Now, the main issue, again, is going to be that moisture return, which we're seeing right now. We're watching these forecast soundings closely on the mesoanalysis map. But also, we're going to be watching throughout the day as these change throughout the time frame here. These are going to update regularly on our mesoanalysis map. So we'll have a better idea as we head into the afternoon how we're looking. But one thing I do want to point out here is our forecast soundings. There is a major difference here. Now, this is a forecasted forecast sounding off of the RRFS model. And we see this bump out of this green line here and this bump out of this red line. That, again, is dry air. That's a cap. Okay. The atmosphere right now between models is showing capped on some models and uncapped on others. So a capped environment would be a hail threat primarily. But if this is an uncapped environment, then we will have the risk for the all hazards, wind and tornadoes being on the table. It's going to come down to how these storms are going to interact with the environment. Okay. So right now we are going to highlight the advertisement of all hazards being possible. Okay. But that is going to be conditional and dependent on the atmospheric cap breaking. Storms can go up, they can become surface rooted. And at that point, we do have sufficient wind shear, instability, and some parameters suggesting we're going to have a threat for tornadoes, large hail, and also some damaging winds as well. It's going to be a wait and see game. The risk is there. Whether it materializes, we'll have to wait and see. Okay. Further north up here towards Grand Rapids, Alma, Flint, and also up here in the marginal towards Mount Pleasant, all the way up here, this warm front is expected to move north through the evening hours. So the further you are in Michigan, particularly on I-94 and south, that's your highest threat in our opinion, as that warm front lifts north through the evening hours. But as we get to the overnight past midnight time frame, that will continue working its way north. How far it goes and how severe it goes, it should be weakening as it moves to the northeast. On these models here, that does show some weakening, but keep in mind we do have still some good cells here across portions of the state. So it's going to be wait and see with that too. The highest risk obviously is in the southern part of the state. The further north you go, it just continues to weaken with time. But there is still a severe threat, mainly for hail and gusty winds up there as the evening goes on. Primarily, if you're up toward Mount Pleasant after midnight. In the thumb of Michigan, probably gonna be after midnight for you guys. It could be a little bit earlier, depending if this warm front lifts a little bit sooner than expected. But again, I think right around that midnight time frame would be a really good idea to kind of expect storms. So overall, that was the RRFS model. The HRRR model is showing a similar picture with this. With our forecasted radar, we see storms developing. This is 7 p.m. Here's 8 p.m. We start seeing those storms out in Illinois. Here's 9 p.m. And then here's 10 p.m. We start seeing that line on the warm front move its way into Michigan. This is, again, 11 p.m. tonight. So right around that 10 to 11 p.m. time frame, we're going to hone in on it, but it could be a little bit sooner or it could be a little bit later. This is an exact science, okay? Overall, the HRRR model is looking a little more aggressive in terms of the atmospheric cap. It does show an uncapped environment, and the RRFS model is showing a capped environment. So it's going to be a battle between, I think, how this moisture in the mid-levels, lowest level, and mid-levels start to pan out. So we'll be watching that very closely throughout the day. With that being said, the slight risk does remain in effect for all hazards, but again, conditional tornado and wind threat, but definitely going to be a hail threat no matter if these are going to be elevated or surface-based storms. A lot of people are asking about the sun being out. Yes, I realize the sun is out in a lot of places here in southern Michigan. That may not be a good thing, and I'll tell you why. When we have moisture on the surface, right, the sun can dry that moisture up. So if we want severe weather tonight, or if you don't want severe weather, the sun may actually help you if you don't want severe weather, but it also may try to what we call mix out some of these surface dew points that may make this atmosphere a little bit more drier. If that happens, then we become a bigger capped environment. So the sun is not necessarily a good thing on today's severe weather setup, if you want severe weather, that is. Looking at some questions here. This is being hyped up. Go on Google and look at the radars. This is going to be later tonight. You're not going to see anything on radar right now. There is nothing to monitor on radar. The HRRR, it's I don't really trust models, so to speak, on days like today. I look more so towards real-time analysis. The models are just a general idea of what we could see. I think the better idea is just kind of stick to your real-time data and kind of just ignore the models at this point because I think they're pretty much useless. Models are good leading up to the day of, and then when we get to the day of, just don't look at models. That's how kind of how I look at things. This is a forecast model. This is not a live radar. This is what the forecast model is outputting. So this is not a live radar. This is what the forecast model thinks the radar will look like later on tonight. You're not going to see any of these storms right now on the radar. The Euro model is a global model, not really good for forecasting short term. So again, timing on this in southern Michigan is going to be right around between 7 p.m., but we're kind of thinking it's going to be closer toward that 10 p.m. time frame for southern Michigan, and that'll extend north. We will get a timing map up on the page a little bit later on today to get you guys a little bit more accustomed to what we're kind of thinking. Again, that's going to be approximate timings, but again, 7 p.m. at the earliest. But I think we're going to start seeing storms right around that 10 p.m. time frame in South Michigan. The marginal risk is for 1 inch hail, so quarter size, but still quarter size can leave dents in your car and it can cause some damage. So take that seriously up there in the marginal risk as well. Yeah, I think the highest threat with this is going to be off to the south and west of us in Illinois, northern Indiana. We're talking about a little bit out of state here, but down in Indiana, especially northwest Indiana, I think when these cells first pop off, if that environment is uncapped with these two cells right here over northwest Indiana, those are going to have some good tornadic potential with them if the environment is uncapped. But also, as they move into Michigan, we'll have to watch those closely. Okay. So the highest threat I think is going to be out here in northern Illinois and northwest Indiana. I would not be shocked to see an enhanced risk upgrade there for hail, especially at the outlook in about 20, nope, 40 minutes actually, 12:30. Should I? Or actually, no. Is the SPC coming out now, or is that 12:30? Give me 1 second here. We're going to. That's the space weather. Give me 1 second here. We're gonna take a peek here. I think it's going to be coming out here shortly, actually, which we might as well stay on and see the updated outlook here if it's going to come out here in a minute. But I thought it might have been 12:30. Let me hop on here real quick. Is the SPC down? Because I'm not getting it up here. My goodness. There we go. Okay. The update will come out in, yeah, it's due any minute. So we're going to stay on here. We're going to actually look at the latest outlook as soon as it comes out. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go over to this map here. I'm going to click on the text products and pull up the SPC products. We're going to sit here. We're going to wait for the new outlook. That is your current outlook that was issued at 8 a.m. this morning. A new outlook is due in 6 minutes. So we are going to stay on here and we are going to look that over when that comes out. So back to comments here. We're just going to kind of chill and see what happens here. All right. Any questions, guys? Jackson County is in that slight risk, and it's going to be for all hazards. But again, anywhere in the state tonight is going to conditional all hazards. The main, I think, threat tonight for all of us is going to be large hail. And if the surface or if the storms become surface based, then we talk about tornadoes and wind potential. Okay. So it's conditional on the environment and how it plays out tonight. But the hail risk is going to be there no matter what. Make it bigger. Can we make the uh, what exactly the screen? I can zoom in just a bit there. I can also take it full screen as well. That's about as big as I can get it for. I can zoom in like this, but that kind of makes it. I guess that's a little bit better of a look. Do I think this is going to bust? These days can go either way. The potential and the hazard potential is there, which is why we're talking about it, especially in February. People are not going to be expecting this today, so it's important to get the information out there. Hail is going to be a risk no matter what with any storm. There's a lot of cold air aloft, a lot of good synoptic ingredients coming together for large hail. But overall, um, I don't think it's going to bust in terms of hail, but I think it could definitely bust in terms of wind and tornado potential. But again, we have to wait and see how that plays out. Elevated dry air help hail form? It can. It really can. What do you think Tuscola County will see? Probably some hail for sure. Can't really talk about the tornado threat, wind threat up there just yet. But again, the cap right now, no signs of it weakening for right now. It is expected to weaken through the afternoon before it kind of strengthens into the evening. We're going to watch moisture very closely, and we'll have updates on the page, so no worries with that. Let's go ahead and check the outlook here. Refresh. All right, still nothing there. We'll come back to that again. Lansing area, you are in the threat. Livingston, yes, you are in the threat. If you're in this yellow risk area, so Metro Detroit up to Flint, up to Grand Rapids, up to Elma, up to Lansing, Ann Arbor, we'll name off some other ones, Monroe, Adrian, Hillsdale, Coldwater, all the way over to Cass County, Edwardsburg, Kalamazoo, Battle Creek, Jackson, South Haven. If you're anywhere in those areas, all right, you are in the severe risk tonight, as well as further north in those dark green areas, Mount Pleasant, Saginaw, Port Huron's on the line there, up toward Deckerville, Caseville, those areas, Portland. You are all in that threat tonight. The highest risk is going to be further south, in my opinion, probably closer to 94. But SPC does think it's going to be a little bit further north, as you can see here in the slight risk here. Sometimes the SPC is going to be late on these outlooks, so we might be on here about a few minutes after 11:30. But we'll be checking this here occasionally and see if it updates. So it should load in automatically. So yes, weather spotting classes are upcoming here for Detroit. They did release their schedule. If you go to their website, we do have a link on our page. I believe it's a little bit probably buried on our page with all the stuff we posted over the past couple of days. But we will be sure to reiterate that here after the severe weather event has passed. Skywarn classes, for those of you who want to be knowledgeable and learn about the weather, not storm chasing, but more so storm spotting, storm characteristics, highly suggest going to a Skywarn class. April, if I had to guess, I'm going to say it's going to be a mixed mode, so to speak. I think some storms will be strong enough to tap into the surface. I think we're going to have like a mixed kind of threat tonight. That's just my gut instinct. Lightning will be pretty intense tonight. At least we expect it to be. In fact, I believe we have some guidance here on lightning density. So I'm going to find it here. See if I can't pull up the lightning density for you to see if I can get this. There it is. Let's back this up. Yeah, here's your. Actually, that's yesterday's run. What is it doing on yesterday? There we go. There's your lightning density. As you can see, it's pretty much right over Michigan here. So we do expect there to be quite a bit of lightning tonight with these storms. All right, the updated outlook just dropped, and they did go enhanced to our west. There is now an enhanced risk to our west in Illinois, and there's an enhanced risk down there in Indiana, Ohio, and Illinois as well. Let's go ahead and take a peek at the updated hazard probabilities here. So they did go enhanced, not for us though. We'll have to kind of wait and see if they changed any of the risks for us. We'll have to wait just a few more minutes here for this to load in. That's still the old outlook there. Let's see the new outlooks. Anything here for the wind yet? Nothing there loaded, but they did go enhanced to our west. But we'll have to wait to see what they did with the hazard. Did it go north? Did it really go north? I think it did. Yeah, I think the slight risk did get extended a little bit further north there as well. If we look at the old outlook, almost all the way up to Roscommon, this is the old outlook. This goes to just north of Grand Rapids over to Flint to Port Huron. The new one looks to be about the same on the east side of the state, maybe just a tad bit north on the west side. I'm kind of curious to see if they expanded that tornado risk. There we go. There's the updated risk for tornadoes. They did not extend it any further into Michigan. That is your updated tornado probabilities. The 5% risk has pretty much stayed the same there in regards to southwest Michigan. And the 2% does go all the way up to Grand Rapids, all the way to Flint to Port Huron, and then areas south. So there is your updated tornadic risk. Let's look at the hail risk here. So there is your enhanced driven hail risk in Illinois. And then this hatched area for hail did get shifted to the west. Now only includes southwest Michigan. So there's your update for the hail. So they're kind of concerned more so right now for southwest Michigan, but still a 15% slight risk for hail does extend all the way over towards Port Huron from Grand Rapids. So definitely going to see the hail threat still tonight. I think that's still the primary threat. And then your wind probabilities, there is your enhanced driven wind probabilities to the southwest, but again, 15% still for Michigan. All right. So there you have it. Their updated SPC outlook, kind of a cool little live analysis there. But again, the overall risk has not changed at all. Still thinking all hazards being possible here, hail being the primary threat. But again, we'll have to kind of wait and see for sure. This is not going to update on this page for a little bit. So we're going to go ahead and take that, refresh this. Yeah, it did update. Cool. So there's your new slight risk. Goes all the way up now to Mount Pleasant, but it still kind of dips a little bit further south here. Didn't really change for the east side of the state, but it did get extended a little bit further north there for the west side of the state. And again, timing on this is going to be right around 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. in the southern part of the state. Again, looking at the model really quickly here, not this one. Yeah, bear with me. I got to bring this back up. We changed it. Nope, not that one. This one. We're going to click on composite reflectivity. This is your model forecasted. This is why they've had the enhanced risk to the west here. These supercells right here off in Illinois, expected supercells, should I say. And then these expected supercells here in northern Indiana. That's going to push into the area tonight, right around 9, 10 p.m., around that time frame. Okay. Makes sense. All hazards are possible with those storms, especially in the southern part of the state. But again, conditional on if we can get the dry air and cap to mix out. All right, guys. Any more questions here? I don't right now think Michigan's going to go enhanced. If it goes enhanced at all, I'm going to assume it's going to be for Southwest Michigan, like we've seen over here in Illinois. For example, they think these storms may cross over here towards, Kalamazoo, South Haven areas. Maybe, but I don't see that happening right now. If we somehow get a lot of moist air coming in this afternoon, they may upgrade. But again, I don't think that's likely at this point. I think we're going to stay a slight risk here. There is some tornadic potential in the state tonight. Yes, there is a 2% and a 5% risk. Let's see if this is updated here. This updated? Yes, it is. So their 5% risk is all the way down here for most all of now Berrien, Cass, and St. Joseph and Branch counties, extending into Hillsdale and just barely covering southwest Lenawee County there. That's your 5% risk. That's where the highest risk. And I think this is pretty good agreement here, because if we look back at our model here, watch how these storms kind of move towards that 5% risk area, like right here. That 5% just barely covering southwest Michigan. And then right there, that's probably going to be your peak tornado potential right there in Michigan, if it's going to happen. But again, dependent on that surface cap or the low-level cap breaking on this. So it's conditional. We'll keep an eye on it through the day. Again, we do have live data we're looking at all through the morning. Your mesoanalysis map, your upper air analysis, all these cool little maps we're looking at. We know what they all mean. We know what they're doing. We'll keep you updated through the day. That's all I got for you guys right now. So with that being said, I'm going to take one last peek at the comments to see if there's any more questions here. Flash freeze potential tomorrow. So there is some potential. I do want to, briefly touch on this just while we're here. The UP especially has a snow risk, but let's take a look at our temperatures. All right, let's go ahead and take a peek at the 12Z HRRR model for temperatures and see what it says. All right, so your cold front comes crashing in. I don't think it's going to be a flash freeze potential, maybe for the UP. Um, but overall, I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal. I would be more concerned for snow in the UP and maybe some snow squalls in the lower peninsula. Let's take a peek at our radar or a potential radar here. Yeah, there's your snow behind this system for the UP, and then also probably a brief shot of snow there for Michigan there. But we do see the winds turn to the northwest there, so we could see some snow squalls later tomorrow afternoon and evening in the state. I wouldn't expect too much in the way of accumulation with this, although I do know that the HRRR model can be somewhat aggressive. But yeah, the UP and northern Michigan there, we see getting on the action here for some snow after the system. But overall flash freeze potential, I wouldn't be overly concerned about that for the state. Haley, you should be fine to drive 94 from Ann Arbor to Belleville. It's not that far of a drive there. You should be able to make it, especially if storms are entering the state about 10. If you get out at 9 o'clock, you'd be probably fine to get from Ann Arbor to Belleville at that point. If the storms do fire earlier, then maybe you'd be a bit more concerned, but I still think 94 is going to be safe for you to drive there. The temps today are going to be pretty much right on par with 70 degrees for a large portion of the state. Going back to the radar here, or the temperature map, I think we're already in the 70s or close to 70. This HRRR model showing mid 70s there for Southwest Michigan. We'll have to keep an eye on that for sure. But the overall live analysis, these are your live temperatures, right? We're getting 64, 65, 66 to our south and west are still in the mid 60s right now. We'll have to keep an eye on that, see if that pushes any further north, but we are expected to be in the mid 70s through the day. All right, guys, with that being said, I'm going to hop off here. If you guys want to go back and rewatch, I did answer a majority of the questions people are still asking. But overall synopsis, severe threat tonight, mainly after 7 p.m., probably going to be closer to that 10 p.m. time frame and after for southern Michigan. Looking at one last look at the radar here. Storms are expected to develop in northern Illinois, northern Indiana, and push into the southern part of the state right around that 10 p.m., give or take an hour or so time frame. All hazards are conditionally possible. I'm going to stress that. Tornadoes and wind, especially, are conditional because we do have a surface cap, which is going to limit storms from becoming surface based. When that happens, it turns into what we call an elevated storm that would carry only a hail risk. Okay. Conditional threat there, especially early on in the evening. After that, turns into a more hail and wind risk further north you go into central Michigan. So, again, timing as early as 7 p.m., but thinking later than 9 or 10 would probably be more realistic. Pushing north through the evening, reaching the Thumb, Mount Pleasant areas probably by midnight or just a bit after midnight. All right, guys, with that being said, I am going to be off here. So we'll keep you updated. We do plan to go live tonight. So if you guys would like to tune in for live radar coverage and live storm chasing, we do have chasers who are going out tonight. We do have people, we have 3 people on radar. We have at least 6 people going out chasing. We have you covered. All right. So stay tuned with MSC. Stay safe, everybody.